Good evening. Welcome to the City Commission meeting on Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. We will start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Fote,
Present.
Commissioner Pearson,
Here.
Mayor Lee,
Here.
Commissioner Grissom,
Here.
Commissioner Hines.
Here.
All right. At this time, we will look at our consent agenda.
We have 10 items on the consent agenda tonight. One is approval of the minutes from the April 7, 2020 regular Piqua City Commission meeting. Number 2 is resolution number 5720, which authorizes consent for the Ohio Department of Transportation for bridge repairs on US 36. This is over the interstate, and it is at no cost to the city. They always request that we give them permission to work. Item number 3 is resolution number R58-20, which is a resolution appointing Chris Lee to the Tree Committee for a term to expire March 1st, 2024. Number 4 is resolution number R59-20, a resolution appointing Steve Trossel to the Tree Committee for a term to expire March 1st, 2024. Item number 5 is resolution number R-60-20, a resolution appointing April Dankworth to the Tree Committee for a term to expire March 1st, 2024. Number 6 is a resolution number 61-20, a resolution reappointing Eddie Harvey to the Park Board for a term to expire March 1st, 2025. Number 7 is a resolution number 62-20, resolution appointing Marcia Garrett to the Park Board for a term to expire March 1st, 2025. Number 8 is resolution 63-20, a resolution appointing Philip Moyer to the Park Board for a term to expire March 1st, 2025. Number 9 is resolution number 64-20, a resolution appointing Jamie Lawson to the Park Board for a term to expire March 1st, 2025. And number 10 is a resolution number 65-20, a resolution appointing Eddie Harvey to the Planning Commission for a term to expire March 1st, 2025.
All right. Everybody's had a chance to look at that.
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next, we'll be moving on to new business. We'll look at resolution number R-66-20.
A resolution to dedicate a portion of Scarborough Drive public right-of-way.
Mr. Schmeezing will provide the staff report on number 11 and on number 13.
Good evening. So in addition to the staff report in the packet, I've also put together a couple slides for both of these agenda items. You'll note this item is in support of the Scarborough Drive Street Extension project that we've discussed previously. And this is what will allow us to open up some additional acreage to the west end of the street so that we have that property available for development purposes. So if the slides are ready to roll there. The street extension will open up approximately 11 acres to the west of the end of Scarborough Drive. And as you'll recall, the property owner has worked with us throughout this process to avail to us the land necessary to be able to dedicate the right-of-way to provide for the public street infrastructure improvements that we'll be installing. And there you go. On your map, you can see the plat that will dedicate that right-of-way. Currently, there's about 175 feet of unimproved right-of-way beyond the end of the existing Scarborough Drive improvements. This dedication will dedicate another 210 feet so that we'll have the length necessary to extend the street the desired distance, which is about 400 feet. So if you go to the next slide there, you can see that the street extension will open up the acreage to the west, the 3.1 acres to the north of the street. There is about 10 acres to the south. 7 of that is within the Scarborough Drive or Scarborough family ownership. And the other 3 acres is the former hotel that extends out to Country Club Road. So if you assemble all those, you've got a nice 10-acre tract potentially there. All of this land is zoned industrial. It's available by the property owner. We have a development agreement in place with the Scarborough family, which locks in the sale price for the property and assures us that it will remain available for purchase until such time it's developed. So that gives us some assurances as we move forward with investing in the street infrastructure. Of course, leading up to this point, we've went through the process of putting the tax increment financing in place. You all approved the ordinance for that. So we have the funding mechanism available. We also secured the ODOT Jobs and Commerce Grant to support the funding for the project. As I mentioned, we've got the development agreement in place with the property owner so that we've got that document. We've also been through the Planning Commission, and the construction documents for the project have been approved. And the project's actually currently out for bid with bids due back on April 27th. And so what you have before you this evening is kind of the last piece of the planning part of the process, and that is to dedicate the right-of-way so that we have the ownership interest that's necessary to be able to build the improvements once we get those bids back. When we get those bids on the 27th, we'll evaluate the submittals, and we'll have that hopefully before you, maybe as early as the first meeting in May. Questions?
Any questions from the commission? Looks like a plan coming together. I'm serious. I think the one slide just said it all. I mean, look how much land is out there. Doing a great job. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll take a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number R-66-20.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're gonna go to 13 then?
Yes.
Okay. Next is resolution number R-68-20.
A resolution requesting authorization to purchase the real property known as part of In-Lot 36 and In-Lot 37 in the amount of $70,000.
So again, there are a few slides to support the conversation here, but I want to start by referencing the background or the context for why we're even discussing this. Much like the previous item, there's a lot of planning effort that goes into determining these kind of moves. And what we're doing here is, like the previous item, executing the plan. So we're implementing the findings and recommendations of those planning documents that have informed us to recognize this property as being important. Those documents include extensive community stakeholder engagement when we put those together. That's the comprehensive plan, the redevelopment opportunities plan, the downtown riverfront redevelopment strategy, the placemaking initiative, and others. So there's been a lot of careful consideration that went into why would we have an interest in this property. And I'll touch more on that here in a minute. The property that we're talking about is a 0.54 acre tract of land, but we're looking at just a smaller portion of it. And the reason it's important is to acquire this property gives us the opportunity to be able to develop a public parking lot facility. And for the public sector to make these kind of investments is absolutely critical to incentivizing private development and the private investment that will come along with it. So if we go to the next slide, there we go. So as I mentioned, it's the actual portion that we're purchasing is 0.41 acres, which is just 3 of the 6 parcels of the overall tract. The auditor's land valuation for the entire 0.54 acres is $92,000. If we look at that number and calculate based upon that, the valuation for the 0.41 acres based upon the auditor's valuation is $69,466. So the negotiated purchase amount that we've agreed upon with the property owner is $70,000, plus their opportunity to utilize 6 of the parking spaces that will be developed. There are comparable sales in the neighborhood and throughout the community and the region that more than support this number. In fact, I would suggest we're buying it at a very good price. So moving to the next item, or the next slide, if you will. What will acquiring it do for us? It gives us the opportunity to not only eliminate an unattractive gravel parking surface in the heart of downtown, it also allows us to develop the land with a paved parking facility with the proper landscaping appropriate to the downtown setting. And most importantly, it creates 42 new public parking spaces. So obviously, we're purchasing the land now. Those improvements will cost some additional dollars. You'll recall at the last meeting, we asked for authorization to apply for a grant through the USDA, and we have submitted that application, and the grant amount that we've requested is for the full amount of the construction cost as it's currently estimated. So with if things work out the way we hope, the only cost we'll incur to create this new parking facility is the cost of acquisition. So on that final slide, I'll try to give you a little more context as to why this parking lot is needed and why it matters. Certainly, it'll support the entire downtown, but most importantly, or most likely, it'll support those uses that are within a block or so. And the slide, what you see there is showing you a 1-block radius from the center of the proposed parking lot improvements. And within that 1-block radius, those red dots represent 24 existing businesses that are within that 1-block walking distance. And those 24 businesses employ approximately 75 persons in the downtown. That doesn't include the patron traffic that they generate or the individuals that come and go from those establishments. Also in that 1-block radius is the Fort Piqua Plaza Banquet Center, which on any given weekend, there's a couple hundred people who are there. So throughout the course of the year, there's thousands of people in and out of the banquet center. This parking facility will certainly support that. The proximity of this parking lot to Lock 9 Park will make it very convenient for folks to be able to park and ride if they're looking to get on the trail system, or if they're coming down to the park for one of the community events, Rock Piqua or some other festival, or simply to enjoy Lock 9 Park and the new improvements that we'll have there. Probably the most important reason why you want to move forward with a project like this is because what I mentioned earlier, it helps to induce redevelopment activity and helps support those investments that are made by the private sector. So those orange stars, or the stars that are surrounded by an orange glow on the map, represent 6 properties that are actively being renovated as we speak, and they're all being renovated to support retail, service, entertainment, or living spaces. And the total private sector investment in those renovations is in excess of $1 million. So the blue stars, the stars with the blue glow around it, represent 6 properties that we've targeted for redevelopment that will support retail, service, or entertainment, or living space type uses. And when those properties develop, we anticipate a private sector of investment of in excess of $14 million. Of those 6 properties, there are active conversations on 4 of them within developers and or end users. So this is not just wishful thinking. It's those folks are asking us, hey, if I redevelop this property, where's the off-street parking? And so when I tell them that we're looking at acquiring this gravel lot, we think that'll support your interest, they tell me, okay, you make that happen, and I'm very interested in this property. So that's why it's important that we take these kind of steps and we do these kind of things. So I wish I could tell you exactly who these end users are, but these folks generally do not want to let their projects be known to the public until they're ready to make the announcement themselves. And if you violate that confidentiality, they won't do the project. It's that simple. So as soon as we can share information, we do. But oftentimes we have to play it pretty close to the vest until the person making the significant investment is ready to share with the public. So happy to answer any questions. I'll tell you, we've been talking with Mr. Bowman, the owner of this property, for the better part of 3 years, and he's made a pretty sizable investment in the building that he owns in addition to this gravel parking area. And he bought the property before we really were that far along with our planning and visioning for the riverfront. But as we progressed and he saw what was happening, he was he couldn't have been more excited, and it gave him the confidence to go forward with the substantial investment that he's made in that building, and will continue to make as he breathes new life into that structure, which was once the Edison. That's Thomas Edison design. It was an Edison illuminating company, as I understand. It provided the electricity for the downtown street lamps originally. So it's got some cool history to it, and we're talking with him about some really cool use opportunities for that building that would, not only would it be neat in terms of the use and support the downtown environment, but it would also help cultivate the entrepreneurial and innovative ecosystem that we want more of in the downtown. Questions about the lot?
Any questions, commissioners?
I guess the only comment I have, I know this has been in the works for 3 years, because I know we've talked about it before. It's so needed, and having sat on Main Street Board with business owners, the merchant meetings, those kind of things, I know how needed it is, and I know we have a letter from Lorna Swisher that's encouraging us to do this as well. And just what it will open up for that part. It's like Main Street is starting to move a little farther, and as we move down Main Street, just the opportunities that that's going to provide for other businesses, I think, is needed, and we definitely need to pave it. So, I mean, I think that's something that's needed.
For my end of this is I had received several questions, and the questions have been answered completely. Questions I had gotten is that they thought that the development of that parking lot was for just one private person, and it was explained to the person that wrote that it was a public use, and you more than explained, especially with your diagram and the stars and stuff, that everybody can use that. What I like is that when Rock Piqua comes, there's 42 added parking spaces for people to park their cars, and they can just walk right across the street and go to the concert. And, you know, it definitely has a good use for the downtown area. I know it's been in the works. It's part of the Riverfront redevelopment project, and, you know, I'm just tickled pink that it's coming to fruition, so.
Chris, is the entryway there off of Water Street, or are there two entries or exits?
Yeah, the current curb cut is off of Water Street, and it'll continue to be off of Water Street. It functions pretty well in that location, and the parking lot lays out nicely, utilizing that existing curb cut. So there's no need to go through the added expense of creating a new curb cut on Main Street or somewhere else. And you really don't want to have multiple curb cuts. It just generates more vehicular patterns that make traffic flow that
Yeah.
much more difficult when
Yeah.
you've got multiple points of egress. And I just want to add to Chris's comments and to some of the other questions. This is exactly why we do the planning that we do. Those planning documents that's what's informing this discussion, and when we ask you all to make these difficult choices to spend money, because we don't take it lightly when we ask you to spend $70,000 to buy a property. There should be a very good reason for that, and the reason for that is very well rooted in those planning documents and justified by those findings.
And just for public information, Gary, are we well suited at this point in time to spend that money?
Yes, we wouldn't be spending it if we didn't have the funding. so.
Exactly.
Can I say something? As a business owner that is in that area, I have my own spot that's part of our lease agreement, but many of my staff do have difficulty getting parking spots downtown. Right now, we don't, but when the library's open and the few food places are open, it is difficult to find a
Sure.
spot to park, so it will be helpful.
I just want to reiterate myself. I had questions that were asked about this parking lot, and Chris, you've done an awesome job explaining that, of what those questions were asked, so I do greatly appreciate that. I had the same question as Cindy did as well about the entryway, because at times I've seen where you kind of get backed up if you got traffic coming in off the corner of Water Street, that sometimes you might get some turning traffic, trying to turn into that parking lot. But once again, great explanation on the entryway and exitway, keeping that the same. That way we don't bottleneck that. Thank you very much.
Also, we applied for a grant for that particular area as well.
Yeah, so the last meeting when we asked for authorization to apply for the USDA Rural Development Grant, it is, the targeted project is this.
Great.
So, provided we go forward with the acquisition, that's what
Sure.
we'll ask for those funds to be used for.
All right, I'm just putting it out there so everybody understands.
Sure.
This is why we do the things that we do as well, so. Any other questions?
No.
I'll take a motion.
I move that we adopt resolution number R-68-20.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you all very
you.
much. Thank you.
And the final new business is resolution number R-67-20.
A resolution authoring the use of the Law Enforcement Trust Fund to purchase equipment for the police department.
As Chief Byron makes his way up here to the podium, this, of course, is, I'll go ahead and just share a little bit of information, but we do receive funds from raids and forfeitures and so forth that funding can only be used, this funding can only be used for the police department itself. So, but to be able to spend it, the city commission has to approve that we be able to expend funds from that trust fund. So Chief Byron is here now, and he can answer any questions that you have pertaining to this.
Did he give you an overview already?
Yeah, well, you just said what the fund was for, but the resolution never said what you're spending the money on.
Yeah, the request for funds is to upgrade our, what's called a TI machine. It's a highly interactive piece of equipment to assist with use of force scenarios, de-escalation techniques. Excuse me. And I think that's about it. I mean, it's,
Sure.
Chris,
It's
you may be
expensive.
familiar with
Oh,
it.
you know I'm familiar with it.
This is the video that is so popular with the Citizens Government Academy.
Oh, yeah.
Because they get to simulate the firings and so forth. And it's been out of commission for a while. And our
Yeah, for
hope
more
is
than a
to get it
couple
back into commission and be able to work it right back into the Government Academy too. But primarily it's for training of our officers,
Oh, sure.
of course.
Sure. I think it's a wonderful piece, or tool. Is it also still being utilized by Edison State law enforcement students or
Well,
not?
currently, it's not operable, so
Will it
without
be,
this
though?
upgrade, but we'll certainly keep that option open to allow Edison to use it, their new police department potentially, and as well as the government academy.
All right.
So what is it exactly? It's a training tool, though?
Oh, it's really cool.
It's
It's neat.
I know, I
where
want
you
to see.
could shoot.
Yeah.
It's a shoot, no
It's a
shoot scenario.
it's a simulation kind of thing.
Okay.
It's pretty
You
nice.
can, it's highly interactive in that depending on the officer's response to or behaviors, the scenario could change. It could go from good to bad, depending on what their actions are. So it requires them to use critical thinking before making a decision, which could ultimately cause them to either have to use force or to be able to de-escalate the situation and just talk the person out of the scenario, whatever it may be. So again, it's highly interactive. It's very fluid scenarios, realistic to what you would see out in the community.
It's kind of like a
That
video
sounds really
game.
important.
Kinda,
especially in
but-
It
today's
is, I know, but-
Kinda.
But it is, it's kind of like.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It requires also that you use movement. If you just stand there,
covered.
you're going to be a sitting duck, so it does require movement. So it's very realistic in terms of, you can't just tell somebody to do something and expect it to happen. If your movement doesn't play into the scenario, well, then you're laying on the ground.
Yep.
So it's highly interactive.
It's a great training tool for the officers.
Now, is this something that can be integrated into the training center that, you know, we were trying to work on out the old wastewater treatment plant? And when you do the scenario, actually go put that scenario into lifetime motion, is that something that could possibly be tied into that at some point in time?
Very, very much so.
Great.
All right. Any other questions from commissioners? If not, I'll take a motion.
I motion to approve resolution number R-67-20.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nope. None? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And thank you for all you've done through this pandemic. I know you've been busy.
Yeah, we just take it day by day.
Yes, sir. Thank you much.
Thank you.
All right. At this point, we're up to public comment. And this is the point in time normally when people get up to talk. We've been soliciting questions from citizens. And at this point in time, we've only received 2. And I will read the first question and seek input. The question's from Natalie Jacqua, 1234 Marwood Drive in Piqua.
Yeah.
She stated, will there be a formal budget revision in conjunction with the changing economic landscape? What is the prescribed response for budget revisions, reallocations, et cetera? And assuming revenues will decline, when would the finance department reflect these changes in the budget? Acknowledging that known changes cannot yet be determined at this time. Thank you.
We're going to provide you a financial statement tonight under my report and should answer these questions.
Okay. All right, and the second question for public comment is from Bill Jacqua, 607 North Sunset Drive. He states that businesses and significant portions of payroll providers of income to city revenue has vanished. State and federal budgets are in severe shortage. This will result in revenue sharing shortages to Piqua. Many economists predict it could take 10 years to recover. I estimate that the city revenue from income tax will drop to low levels we saw in the Great Recession. This is probably a several $million decrease in city income tax. Should we stop non-essential spending for a while?
The answer to that is we agree that non-essential spending should be curtailed, and we have done that. And again, under my report, we'll have more information on this tonight.
All right. And with that said, that's the end of public comment. We will go to the city manager's report.
Thank you very much. We were very saddened this week at the death of sanitation worker Darby Wright. Darby was an outstanding employee and had just been promoted to full-time about a month ago. So it's a tremendous loss for the city and especially the workers who worked with him every day. So our thoughts and prayers are extended to his entire family because we're in a very sad situation. I am working on a reopening plan for the city, and this week Governor DeWine is releasing the requirements for Ohio to restart, and we will abide by the state's requirements as our plan is developed. But we still don't have that information. I'm expecting more information by Friday. I think some of the hospital and business plans are due in tomorrow to the governor, and we're hoping to get some more information. But as we get those details on what we can do, then we'll develop our plan for
And
city
we will let
operations.
citizens know as soon as possible,
Yes,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Work.
Going back to the questions we had tonight on non-essential spending and budgeting and so forth, I'd like to ask Ms. Holtzapfel to share some of the limits on spending that we have already implemented from the get-go. So,
Thank you. As indicated, the City of Piqua has stopped non-essential spending. Since mid-March, all departments have only been purchasing items and services critical to operations. We are also delaying some capital purchases and many capital projects at this time. Non-essential summer and seasonal staff will not be hired this year, as well as the pool not opened. Overtime has been substantially reduced, and hiring is always being reconsidered. All areas of the budget are currently under review. Please note that we monitor both revenues and spending on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. When appropriate, budgets are and have been adjusted. We are also looking to help offset reduced revenues and COVID-19 expenses through grants and other funding opportunities, both state, federal, and local. We will continue to evaluate revenues and budget spending requests while efficiently and effectively providing services to the citizens of Piqua, our utility customers, and our many dedicated employees. Please remember that each day brings change, but together we will continue to adapt accordingly and in the end prevail. Thank you.
Is that the end of your report?
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Like I said, and thank you, Ms. Holtzapfel. That was great. To know that we are monitoring the spending and the revenues and limiting it to non-essential answers, first of all, the questions that were asked. And secondly, it puts me at ease, as well as it should put the citizens of Piqua at ease, that we're in good condition, and if anything were to happen, they would be the first to know. We would all be the first to know.
We will certainly let you know
yeah,
if there
yes.
is an issue.
So thank you very much. So at this point in time, we're going to have the commissioners' comments, and we'll start with Mrs. Hines, Commissioner Hines.
Thank you. I only have one comment to make tonight, and our city manager has mentioned Darby Wright. He was an amazing young man, and long before he ever came on with the city, those of us, especially in the show choir community, knew Darby very well. And I'm sorry I'm getting choked up, but he was an amazing, talented young boy and young man, and I so enjoyed, as many people in our community, watching him perform and the bright light that he was in our community. I was so excited when he came on in our sanitation department, because when Darby would come down my street to pick up my trash, he always had a smile on his face. He was always positive about what he was doing, and just a joy to see on those days that he would come by my house. My son, who is now in show choir, looked up to him, as many young people did in the school system, and our hearts go out to his family and his friends and so many people who are hurting from this. Definitely somebody who has gone way too soon, but my thoughts and prayers are with his family and all who mourn this loss this day. As I say, I give thanks to God for his life, and I give thanks that he now rests whole and complete in the arms of the one who created him. Thanks, that's all I have.
Thank you. And we're all in agreement with that. So thank you.
Yeah, I didn't know Darby very well, but I'd heard nothing but good things, and absolutely want to send condolences to the family and prayers. I really don't have too much to speak about tonight. The one question I did have was, looking at those financials, a lot of the calls I get are about the streets. Do you see the resurfacing changing, or the projected plans for 2020?
Right now, we're planning to go ahead with paving unless something happens that we're not expecting or whatever. But right now, it is in our plans to move forward.
Is that the contracted paving?
Yes,
And
yeah, right.
the other stuff that we do as well?
Yes.
I know last meeting we looked at those. I know the financials were highly looked at as well,
Yeah.
too. So I just
And-
didn't know if there was any adjustments as we're doing this daily, weekly.
Not at this point, but as Cindy has mentioned, we're watching it on a daily basis. But, for the moment, we're looking at going forward. We will have, of course, next weekend's the 28th ends the balloting for the road levy, street levy. So we'll hopefully shortly after that know what our future is for paving throughout the city.
Thank you.
And I still want to promote the street levy. I know there's definitely some opportunities there, and I really hope that that does pass. And I do want to thank you for all your hard work, looking at the financials and all those, because right now there's a lot of unknowns, and we have to stay on them. And it's ever changing. The whole economy is dynamic, so I really think us keeping a close eye on it, and I know you guys are, and I really appreciate that.
All right. Commissioner Pearson?
Thank you. I wanted to also extend my condolences to Darby's family, and I hope that they do find peace in all of this. I also wanted to make folks aware that this is National Work Zone Awareness. And in driving through our city, there are all kinds of work projects going on. And so when you're out driving around, beware, because there are barrels and there are flaggers in the streets, and just be aware when you're driving. Slow down. Congratulations to our senior class of 2020. The stadium was beautiful, all lit up. And Jim Oda's house was lit, the library was lit.
Library was lit, yeah.
I think everybody enjoyed being a part of that. Another item is that 311 Draft House is providing meals for those who are in need. And all you have to do is give them a call, or you can email them. And their menu is called the Blessing Menu. And they have 3 items, and all you have to do is let them know what you want. They'll prepare it, and then you go pick it up. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Pope.
I'd like to send my condolence and prayers out to the Wright family, the co-workers as well. Great, tremendous loss for any municipality to have to go through something like that. So my thoughts and prayers are with everybody from family, friends, cousins, and the workers here in town. And I want to thank the city staff specifically. You guys are working day in, day out to make sure that we're staying on top of everything that is going on, the health and sanitation, fiscal office, HR, just making sure that everybody's taken care of. So I greatly do appreciate that. I want to extend that thanks out to everybody for doing an outstanding job. Last meeting, I always talk about business continuing to go on. We can't stop business. And I brought up the resolution that was put in a moratorium, and that was R94-16. Had a chance to take a look at that, and I guess tonight I'd like to pose the question out to the commissioners to see if we can pull this out of moratorium and put this conversation back on the table between the Planning Commission and also the city commissions itself. I've been doing a lot of research on this, and I'm more than willing to provide the research that I've been digging into with the amount of licenses that are authorized by the state, criminal numbers in certain cities that do have the dispensaries in them. And what I want to make clear is that I'm just looking at the dispensary side of this, not the cultivation side or anything like that, just more or less along the dispensary side, which could help in a lot of ways in the community, helping with, pharmaceutical drugs, trying to get people off them as much as possible and go to more of a regimen like this. So I'm not quite sure where to take it from here, but if I could just, maybe if we can get this pulled out and start talking about it again, I'd greatly appreciate it.
All that takes is a motion, right?
Well, I think at this point, I think if, your indication of whether you want to see it move forward doesn't really take a vote at this point. But I think if there's 3 of you that want to move that issue forward, we need to look up, and the moratorium was put on there because of, at the time, there were no guidelines, no anything. So I'm not sure whether that was ever permanently done or whether it was for extended period of time. I'd have to research
guidelines now?
to see on that.
And I'm the only one who was here during that time. I remember that very specifically because we did a lot of background. I remember Stacy walked us through. We had Dr. Burkhart came in. We had a variety of folks come in. So if we do this, I would say let's do that again. Let's make sure we get all of that information so that we know what we're going into, what any type of, and again, we didn't have any guidelines at that point, so now we have some guidelines. So I have no problem with it. I think I just want to make sure we do all of our due diligence and homework with it.
I'd like to see it go forward, be pulled out of moratorium so we could explore it as well.
Yeah.
So all it takes is 3 of you to say, yes, you want to move it forward. So
All those that,
I counted those already, so.
okay.
So I do appreciate it, and, I'd hope we can all come down to a sense on this and move forward with the planning process, go back to the Planning Commission, and also, bring it back up to the commission. So appreciate the support.
I'm from. Appreciate you looking out for the interest of the city.
It'll take us a little bit just to figure out
Sure.
where we left off. So I'm not,
It was
I
quite a
can't
few years
recall.
ago.
Yeah.
When I agree with you, I think we got to do our due diligence.
Yeah.
It's nothing wrong with reinvestigating, especially since a lot of things have changed since then. So I have no problem moving forward either.
I think there are stipulations that it can't, any type of distribution can't be near a church or a park or school. So there's limitations on where any such facility could be located.
Sure. We can look at all of that, I guess. Any other comments?
Nope.
Hey, thank you very much.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, sir.
I
Yes,
completely
sir.
forgot, so.
No problem.
I did want to say, it is National Lab Week, and as a lab director, I had to give a shout out, especially with everything going on with, being contingent on lab testing.
Yes,
I
yes.
truly want to say thanks to all those laboratory professionals that are working hard right now.
Well, all right, we can do that. All right, as for my report, my condolences go out to the Darby Wright family. His daughter is somehow my cousin. It's like her dad is my second cousin, so she, the mother of the child is my third cousin. We're related, and so my heart went out and continues to go out. And so prayers and blessings and the grace of God goes out to the family and to the child and the mother of that child as well. And just let them know that we're thinking of you, and you're in God's hands. God's got you. I know He does. Aside from that, I've been getting lots of questions on a continual basis about a lot of things that are happening, and I try to keep citizens informed by reposting and giving the information as soon as I get it. I think it's important that knowledge of what's happening with the pandemic and the COVID stuff be passed on. All that information is available at the city's website, and all I'm doing is not reinventing the wheel, but passing on the hard work that's done by Gary and Amy Welker and a lot of the city workers here. So I appreciate all their hard work, and Gary, thanks for keeping me informed. I mean, if I have any issues, I pass them on. I get trash complaints. I had someone send me a message about if people aren't cutting their grass right now, what should we do? I just got that right before I came in. And, I give them the best answer that I can, and if I don't have the answer, I go to the source, and the source is the city manager. He does a great job keeping us all informed, and the city workers are doing a great job. And so if you see one, wave at them, thank them, because they are essential employees. They make your life in this city possible, and I know that we've all been hunkering down. I've been hunkering down too on the days when I'm not actually an essential employee with my family and spending time with them. Let's just make it easy, and we are almost. I'm not saying that we're done. There's still a lot of things that we're going to do that need to be done. The governor's going to come out with some rules, and we're going to have to abide by them. But mitigation has been working. I mean, if you look at Ohio's numbers compared to other states, they're relatively low. So let's continue to support what the governor has asked us to do and the rules that we've got in place here. And I just appreciate everybody, every citizen in Piqua abiding by those rules, because you're what makes that work. If we didn't have your compliance, we wouldn't be able to do the things that we're doing and keep the numbers as low as they are. So with that said, I want everybody to hang tight, just stay informed. If you're watching your 2 o'clock meeting with Governor DeWine and maybe your 5:30 or 6 with President Trump, continue to do that, and we'll get through this together as a city. And with that said, I have nothing further to say. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.